Welcome to the Digital Journey Podcast. Every successful online business entrepreneur has an incredible story to share about their journey to success. Listen and learn from top digital mavericks and online business insiders as they share their secrets so you can live the lifestyle you deserve. Your pilots for today's journey, Rob Fortney and Nick Nimmin. Welcome aboard, passengers. The digital journey begins now.
Welcome to the Digital Journey Podcast, navigating your online business voyage. I'm Rob Fortney from the Amazon Gorillas and my partner, Nick Nimmin. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. And we would like to welcome everybody to number 3 podcast of the Digital Journey Podcast. Today, we're going to interview online and location-independent entrepreneur Jon Peters, who has been a location-independent entrepreneur for 15 years. He's lived in more than a dozen countries and traveled to over 60 countries. That's quite a resume, John. He's worked and consulted with over a dozen Fortune 50 companies and generated over $250 million in revenue. John, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks, Nick. Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well.
All right. So let me tell you a little bit about the podcast so you have an idea why you're here and what you may learn over time. The Digital Journey Podcast is going to help you gain the knowledge you need to change your current lifestyle and hopefully by owning an online business. What we're going to try to do for everybody is give them actionable step-by-step tips and strategies to start or purchase an online business. Hopefully what we're going to do is give you the knowledge and the courage you need to create reliable income so that you can live the lifestyle you deserve and do what you want to do.
The Digital Journey Podcast is brought to you by Empire Flippers. They help you buy and sell quality websites and online businesses. Their buyers and sellers span the globe, and they have fine-tuned their process and their team to ensure that you have a safe, secure buying and selling experience.
You can visit their website where they have these businesses listed at empireflippers.com. And they also have a great blog with all kinds of information about starting. And so there's a great blog there as well.
With all of that out of the way, I'd like to welcome our guest, Jon Peters. Welcome, John, to the show. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing great. Thanks, Nick. Yep. I've got a lot of background on Empire Flippers, now more than I did before. Know who I'm going to.
Hey, we're fans. That's why we're here.
Absolutely.
Let us know, John, what's your backstory before you started your journey to become a full-time successful entrepreneur? Just tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you started on the road, and what got you into creating a lifestyle that you enjoy every day?
Well, I guess I have to thank my parents. I got bit by the travel bug quite early. They took me to Japan summer of 1989. And that opened my eyes to the rest of the world. And that's, I think, when I got bit by that bug. And I said, okay, I need to start exploring. Shortly after that, I moved to Lake Tahoe, originally from Silicon Valley, Bay Area, California. And just needed to start exploring. So that started my journey.
Nice.
And then it was 89. So almost 30 years later, here I am in Thailand.
Nice. That's definitely a good end result. So I guess it worked out. Right?
Yeah, it's a work in progress continually, but it's definitely working. So yeah, backstory, I've been in technology for the last 15 to 18 years. Was fortunate to work for some large brands, the likes of IBM, Dell, AMD, and consulted for the last 5 or 6 years into some large global corporations as well. My choice to travel the world led me to follow this lifestyle. That's probably the easiest way to sum it up.
Yeah, that's good. So what initially got you started in the online business? To actually go online and say, hey, I'm gonna try to see if I can make my way on the internet. What got you started in that? What led you in that direction?
Well, I think the Rob statement about a serial entrepreneur, I guess mine started with the paper route that it did for a lot of us probably in the States. We get a little taste of money. But online specifically, I had some great or ungreat idea at the time to start selling hemp teddy bears back in 1996. And that's still when we had a 28.8 modem rate, bot rate. It was somewhat successful. Success can be subjective.
Sure.
Just found a product, and the internet was new. Being born and raised in Silicon Valley, I think it just was appropriate at the time, and just wanted to give it a go. But it was back when people were still very cautious of putting their credit card data into the internet.
Sure, probably very cautious of actually using the internet too, because at that time, when that alert pops up saying you have a virus, everybody says, "Oh my God, I really have a virus." Yeah.
Exactly.
That was like a Commodore 64 back then or something. Were you AOL? You've got mail.
It was.
That's how long ago you were doing
It was
that.
AOL and almost Atari.
There was like all that, all that crazy noise when we were dialing up a modem, So
One thing I'd like to touch base on is you mentioned that success is subjective. How would you personally define success? Like when in your life, when did you say, okay, I've made it, so to speak. I'm living the life that I want to live, and I define myself as successful. How would you? What's the actual qualifiers, and when did you qualify under those rules as a successful digital entrepreneur, location independent person?
For me, it's never been about the money. It's about the freedom.
Nice.
And specifically the freedom for traveling. So that's going back to what I mentioned. I got bit by that bug early, and I've needed to explore, and I have since explored. And my location independent style is a little bit different than some. I somewhat choose a country or a location that I want to live in. And historically, it's turned out that I'm typically there 3 to 4 years. So if history stays accurate, I'll be here 3 to 4 years.
Nice.
But it's both in the U.S. I've done that in multiple cities, multiple states, and then multiple countries around the world. So success for me is it's about having freedom to travel, freedom to have time with family and friends. I struggle with the monotony of the 9 to 5.
Sure.
And also the pressure that comes with that, whether it's self-inflicted or real, there's also a stress and a pressure that comes with it. So this
constant monkey on your back, so to speak.
100%. Yeah, and it's, everybody's got a job and a role. Everybody's got a boss, right? Yeah. Until you kind of get to this level, but then you are your own boss, which
can sometimes be worse depending on.
I define the location independent or entrepreneur when somebody asks you what day of the week it is. Like, if you take more than 1 second, then you're getting close. Like, there are days when I literally don't know. You just don't know, because your life is kind of the same every day, and you don't wake up with this problem. And so that's why we all love to do this, is because you wake up and you're like, well, what day of the week it is? I don't know if it's Saturday or Sunday or Tuesday sometimes. I'm not that far off. It's not like I'm like 6 months off, or I'm thinking I'm in October.
Truthfully, it doesn't matter what day it is, because you're just, I love working, so I'll work 7 days a week, but I do it at my speed.
Right.
I do it at my times. Last 5 nights in a row, I've been up till 2 or 3 in the morning.
Working.
Right. Yeah. Not partying, working.
Right.
Because there's less distraction at night. It's quieter, and I've always been more productive at night. So
yeah, and that's a really important thing to jump on as well, because a lot of times, even if somebody does transfer from the 9 to 5, they still try to stick on that 9 to 5 schedule. But I think that it's really important for people to kind of dial into when are you the most creative, when are you the most productive, when is your mind the clearest, when are the distractions the least, and things like that, and kind of work around that time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. The this lifestyle just gives you that freedom to learn more, actually, to deep dive a little bit more yourself, do a little more self-discovery, because especially in the States, we're just in that routine. It's repetitive. It's Monday through Friday, 8 to 8 realistically. By the time you get up, you travel, you work, you get home, like, you don't have time to think about yourself.
Yeah.
So this helps eliminate that. As mentioned, you end up, potentially at the end of the week, you work the same amount of hours, but you do it in, I believe, a lot more relaxed, calm manner. I've had a lifelong topic that relates to stress. It's put me in the hospital 3 times, and so this is a decision I made for both health and personal reasons, just to get out of that hamster wheel that people refer to it as, of which it is, because it can just spin you in circles and spit you out broken.
Sure. Plus that ability to actually drive your own boat, so to speak. As far as stress and things like that are concerned. There's still issues that come up if things, for whatever reason, they're not going well or something like that. You still have to deal with that. But as far as that looming thing of a boss and, having to, hit someone else's deadlines and, do whatever workload they put on you and things like that. Yeah, it's definitely a game changer as far as that's concerned.
I think people who think that sometimes this is not a working thing. Like we're here on vacation all the time. You know, you guys were laughing at me earlier because I was kind of moaning that I had to go back to the beach for the third time in the last 40 days, and then I got to go back again. Like, how do you complain about that? Not that it can't work there. By the way, it doesn't do well to work on a beach. You need to be like back up on your balcony because the sand in the water doesn't do good for computers. But the thing about working is that I think, like how I kind of approach it is I work super hard for a while, like maybe 30 days, sometimes 90 days. But then, like last time, I think I worked, like when I first got started, I did like 6, 8, 10 months, and I just worked 18 hours a day. Now, there's times you had to do that because I was starting. But then all of a sudden, once I got there and you do this big kind of deal, you need to level off. And then so for 9 months, I didn't do anything when I first got here. Like I wake up every day, well, there's money coming in. Like, what do I need to work? So I think don't have some perspective that this doesn't work, you know, where you don't work. You're going to have times at work, but it's the choice that you can kind of do and then level off and then up again and kind of be able to like plateau it and, you know, work real hard and kind of coast for a little bit, work real hard and kind of coast so you're not burning yourself out.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really where you set your goals, right? Like if your goals are focused on $5 million passive income, you're going to be working 80 hours a week no matter where you're
at.
at.
If you're owning $1 million business, you're working.
Right.
You know?
Right.
If you want to see all 196 countries in the world, you figure out how to work and travel, or travel and work. So it's just setting your own goals, I think. And then we're all programmed a little bit by our background, whether you're from Europe, Australia, Asia, the States. So you have to take in consideration to be a little bit easy on yourself. That's, you know, you've been programmed a little bit and how your normal routine is, and it's okay to adjust that. But yeah,
or fully change it.
Yeah,
it's okay to just fully, you know, do a 180 and start living a completely different way also.
Yeah. What kind of hobbies and, you know, what are you doing that you maybe wouldn't able to do when you first started or whatever, but what kind of things are you doing to then, I call it my rewards from my lifestyle. So what kind of things besides traveling, we know that's part of it, what kind of personal things are you doing, hobbies, whatever those kind of things might be?
Yeah, it's a very valid point because I'm a very avid cyclist and it helps keep me healthy. But when I'm in that hamster wheel, previous life, I was unable to ride my bike. And that's my joy, that's my meditation, that's all of my centering, but and it got less and less, it became less and less part of my life. Now here, again, because of my time availability or that freedom, I'm able to ride my bike whenever I want because I can work at night. I'm not, you know, on a leash or on somebody else's schedule. So,
do you have any mentors that you look up to, or anybody like that right now is inspiring you?
Yeah, right now, to be honest, and
I mean more in-person people. I mean people that you talk to and work with, because we'll talk in a minute about like other like more online stuff, but like personal people that you.
Yeah, personal people. Like the 6 months I've been here, right? Honestly, you've been a big aspiration, Rob.
Well,
no,
awesome.
Seriously, it's true.
Nice.
Like I mean, everything you've put together, and you know, looking and learning from you, and the conversations we've had, like it's absolutely opened my eyes and made me think of a lot of different perspectives doing so. Yeah, sincerely.
We met literally. This is how great this place is. There's that many entrepreneurs. I was eating a hamburger and he was sitting next to me. Yeah. That's how we met it. And now we've been, you know, I think pretty close friends. We talk, you know, quite often, and you know, and I appreciate that. It's very nice words to say. You do too. So I think that's one of the great things about people here is that we all kind of inspire and help each other. And again, we keep sounding like we're selling Chiang Mai. We love where we live, and if you ever get a chance, just to even stop by here for a month, it's worth doing. It's a great place to start, but the problem is if you start here, you may never leave. Like, I don't want to go.
Right.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's exactly how we met, just over a hamburger. Me interrupting your conversation you're having with somebody else through what I understood at the time was a bit of a mentor-menteeship at the time, right? So, yeah, we ended up talking for 3 hours over hamburger, and here we are. But, yeah, I came here, and I've done this in the past. I moved to places, and I don't know a single soul. And I do that intentionally, and, you know, it's just, you know, I love cutting bait and jumping in, you know.
I call it running away, but it's not really running away. I tell everybody before I was in my own business, I'm just going to run away one day. I'm going to run away, I'm going to disappear. Well, if you go 10,000 miles away, I call it like you're being on a different planet. You might as well be on Mars. I mean, we're on a different day than other people. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, the time window of connecting with people in other parts of the world, you figure it out, but definitely.
Of course, with every journey, you know, there's highs, there's lows, you know, things like that. There's learning periods, you know, things like that. Have you, along your way, have you had any failures to where you originally saw it as a failure. And that, well, actually, let's break this into two categories. First one is going to be, have you had any failures? The second one, have you had any to where you thought, okay, well, this is tanking, this is not going to work out, and then it totally turned around for you, and that you were able to, basically pull it off, and it opened a whole new door and a whole new way of life for you?
Yeah, absolutely. With this journey, there are lots of failures.
Yeah.
And
They're not failures.
no, they're
The
not.
only way you can be successful, I'm talking back too far. The only way you can be successful is to
Fail a lot.
run the
Right.
car into the wall,
Right.
crash.
Well, I believe I look at it. It's just like traveling. To go back to that analogy, that technically we're never ever lost. Because if we were lost, we wouldn't be found right now, right?
Right.
So temporarily misplaced,
Sure.
but not lost. So
We're on a journey.
yeah, we are on a journey, absolutely. So yeah, there's been some failures. There's been some interesting and funny ones.
What do you got? Let's lay them on us.
Lay us in it. Get us the downside.
Yeah.
Give us something dirty and nasty.
All of this can be edited out, so we'll go into it. So one of the early entrepreneur ventures was started a female clothing company, an apparel company called Princess Hooker.
Nice. Nice. No need to edit that. Yeah, no need to edit
Hey,
that.
we're all grown,
Yeah,
right?
we're adults here.
Right.
Yeah.
I was dating a woman at the time, and there was a conversation with some of her friends, and next thing you know, this name popped into my head of Princess and Hooker. And so we started making some apparel, and it went crazy. Friends back in the early 2000s were trading literally stickers and G-strings for lap dances at the strip club. So
Nice. Now, I would think that's a success.
Yeah?
That doesn't sound like a failure to me.
Sounds like a
Yeah, that
failure.
sounds.
Now listen, before we started, you told me about something that was a little failure. I want to hear about this one. Which then really, we're driving this thing into the ground. But like, tell us about the teddy bear. What was the story on that?
So the hemp teddy bears, another educational process, right? Another learning, learning that it's a lot of it's about timing. First, you just got to jump in and do it. I don't know where the idea came from, other than just being. I don't know. I honestly don't even know where the idea came from. It's just something I wanted to try. So I had identified some place to buy hemp teddy bears, and logic with that, it wasn't marijuana, so it was legal. Hemp has been around for 6,000 years, literally. And found these cute little teddy bears and took an ad out in High Times magazine on the back of it. And the internet, again, being from the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, the internet was starting. It had been around for a little while, but online e-commerce was starting. So had an AOL account, had a little website that I put up. The education, the learning with that is credit cards, right? Everybody's got them, but at that time, people weren't too comfortable putting their credit card details into this internet, of which they weren't even sure how that thing worked. So,
Right.
we bought, a lot of them, I'll call it, and we ended up selling some and distributing some and giving some away free, but definitely was a part of the journey of learning.
Nice.
Well, so we went to hookers and weed.
Yeah. What do we got
I
next?
still want to know like where the failure was in that. Like, why did it end? Like, why aren't we still selling G-strings and teddy bears? That's what I want to know.
That's a great question. I ask myself that all the
Maybe
time.
you should get back into that business. Maybe that's your new business. Princess hooker stuff. Anyway.
My business partner in Vegas has tried to restart that thing. It's just all about time. It's market, and
Sure.
The failure was I went to a startup, made a decent amount of cash. They went out of business. Nothing that I had to do with it was the management team, and had another venture and started up a company called Techno Audio Apparel. Identified the fact that actually the word techno was not trademarked or registered, believe it or not. So I went through the trademark process, learned that, invested my capital, and had a business for a couple of years, and we're selling both online and bricks and mortar into some friend shops, and we had nationwide distribution. But again, timing. That business lasted a couple of years, but then the market changed a little bit. So
Dun, 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 the market changed. Be prepared for change.
Yeah. Evolution is a definite certainty.
Have you ever lost it all? Have you ever been to the like, oh my gosh, I got to start over and I got $5,000 or I got $1,000? Like, what's the lowest you got down to in the last 20 years?
There's always the potential of losing it all, but I try to be as risk adverse as possible. So like you want to watch and see what trends are
Well,
coming.
don't be in the restaurant and bar business, because I rode a roller coaster that you could not believe. I got down to $1,000 one time, like literally $1,000 in my whole life. And I was sitting in there, and that was actually 4 years ago. I was in that little one-bedroom apartment by myself, and I was done, and I had the resume filled out and was ready to go. I didn't know what I was doing. I was going to get a job. That's all the choice I had, and that was a nightmare. Like I was literally, but I never was in a panic. I was always peaceful. That I knew if I just kept doing whatever I was doing, I knew that I was working, and I knew I was making mistakes, and I was screwing it up, and I kept wrecking the car, and oh my gosh, I just spent all this time to try to learn how to do, and now it's not going to work. My burn time, and I talk about burn time, which is how long do you have before your savings runs out, and that kind of stuff as well. So that's burn time. Hey, so this is the point in the show where we kind of try to break it down and give us a little break. We try to keep this, give something like this is more tools and tips kind of things. And so what I'd like to ask you is and I know you're using some tools, and it could be tools you used in your past, but when I call tools, I mean, specific thing, something you put in your business and use. So maybe a software or a program or, I don't know what other kind of tools, but I like the word tools. So it's our toolbox section. So what tools are you using currently, and what have you used successfully in the past? And you can define tools maybe however you want.
And tools can also be filed under, books, courses that you've taken, particular media that you consume, and, things like that to kind of expand on what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Currently, there's a list of them from Jungle Scout to KD Spy. The biggest and the best tool, to be honest, is Google and YouTube.
Yeah, the answer machine.
Yeah.
Listen, if you're calling me or Nick and you're on our YouTube channel or sending us an email or a question, and if I can Google an answer, I'm not answering your question. Yeah. I'm just going to send back. What's the site that they have? Like it's like the Google, like, hey dummy, ask Google when somebody asks you a question.
Yeah, let me Google that for you.
Let me Google that for you. Like I can't tell you how many times in my life. Just use Google, guys. Like any question you have, it's kind of getting close to like God. It's the answer of the world. If you have a question, answer that before you call us and ask us a question, because it's a lot easier.
Yeah, the beauty, you can talk to Google now too.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, you just push the microphone button.
No, maybe it's not. Maybe I should not. We can keep telling people we can keep looking like geniuses. Well, how do you do this? Here's what you do. I mean, I literally have copied and pasted stuff off other people's sites. Here's what you do, and I look like a genius, but
Yeah, it's a library back in the day, but now it's just Google. Every amount of information, anything you need to find is on Google. So.
I tell these kids that are in college, my daughter's in college, and I tell her, like, I can't even imagine if I went to school now, like what I could have pulled off and what we were pulling off back in college then, but like how much easier. Like I would show up at class with my iPad and just record it and video it and send it with somebody else. Hey, will you record and do it? I could have been location independent in college if I'd had the technology that they have now.
Right.
Yeah, there's all kinds of great tools out there. As mentioned, Jungle Scout, KD Spy.
Well, maybe we need, because I'm going to ask you what you're using those in and what businesses you're using. I guess I can ask you that next.
I've never really been a big reader. So books, they end up putting me to sleep. So the beauty of YouTube, like you have videos. I just need practical application. I need to. Current project right now, I just pull up a YouTube video on one screen, and I'm actually working on the computer on the next one to make sure the code's right. Like, so it's beautiful, this world of technology that we're in right now. People are also amazing tools, right? I mean, that's the other thing. It's just you have to surround yourself. I've always believed that my model and all the different companies I've worked in, with my own consulting, it's just surround yourself with intelligence.
Right.
Like I am no way the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, for sure. Ever.
It's finding those people that can, that are smarter than you, that can get you to that destination, whatever it is. So I learned that at IBM from a lady named Mary C. She was a 5'0" little Chinese lady that was a firecracker, and she just taught me if you got a problem, just ask people for help, and typically you can find it.
Yeah. Hey, that's a great thing.
What
Ask
Google
people.
can't fix. Yeah, what Google can't fix,
Ask
people
somebody
can.
else. Go find someone who's an expert in that area. So tell us what businesses you're doing right now, because that's kind of important. What's actually working for you in your life to help you maintaining your lifestyle. So what kind of stuff are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. 4 main things, really. Amazon FBA.
And so as you do, we talked about those tools. So when you're going to tell us what tools you're using, because you named 3 or 4 tools. So if you'll give us those tools you're using in those businesses.
Absolutely. So the 4 things real quick, Amazon FBA, Kindle publishing, my own strategy business or consulting business, digital strategy, social media strategy. And then the 4th is cryptocurrencies, actually mining, because I have a hardware technology background. Amazon FBA specifically, Jungle Scout. That's the best $97 or $500, depending on which tool set you get. It makes your life incredibly easy. It's fairly accurate.
And is that what do you use Jungle Scout for? Actually, what does it actually do for Amazon FBA?
Yeah, with the research. So product identification,
Okay.
as you know, is one of the. It's the largest part. The research, the product identification is probably the most challenging part because you want to plug holes into it and find out why it's not valuable or a proper solution at the time. But that tool helps you select different categories, narrow down to your niche. There's a set of criteria that you can learn through other online programs. Amazon Gorillas is a great resource. It's been used.
Well, yeah. I mean, hey, we produced, I don't know, over 100 free videos on YouTube, so you can go want to learn about Amazon FBA.
Where do you think I got part of my knowledge, Rob?
Well, I appreciate that. We try to share as much as we can. That's the same thing we're doing here. That's why this format works. It's just get people information, and if you don't have any good friends, we'll be your friends, and we'll tell you and talk to you and maybe help you out in your business. That's what this is meant to do.
100%. Kindle, ebook publishing. Specifically bought a tool called KD Spy, and that's similar to Jungle Scout in the sense that it helps you narrow down a niche. Within Kindle, the ebook store, there's, I don't know, probably 1,000 different categories. Literally, there's over 100, and then all the subcategories. So really identifying what niche, aside from Google Trends, because that's also another tool. Merchantkeywords.com is another tool. Keywords.io is another tool. So it's really just leveraging the technology and or the tools out there that help you specifically to the project and or the revenue stream, the job that you're working. Digital marketing. I actually about 5 years ago built my own strategy. I built a framework, and it's since been deployed into companies, small startups in Northern California to the likes of IBM. It was used. It's called Build with Pride. The BUILD acronym stands for business goals, understanding your audience, insights or KPIs, those success metrics. L of BUILD stands for listen and apply logic. And then D is a documented governance. The pride parts, some of the things that I saw missing in the corporate world: passion, respect, integrity, dedication, encouragement. So that model, it's a framework that just really aligns business goals to the target audience, to success factors, to the platforms or channels, and then ensures that all of that's documented. So that's a model that I built while riding my bike up the mountains of Colorado over the course of 30 weeks. It all came to me, documented, and we've used it and implemented it in numerous different companies.
Do you think one of the things that I think this epiphany that sometimes people have is you've got to get away from the chaos. You've got to get out of the prison. And so obviously you're riding that bike. Do you think that that's something that gave you that space to be able to be inspired, have that space to be able to be inspired?
100%. For some, it's yoga. For some, it's the gym. For me, it's the bicycle. It's where I do all my business processing, my meditation of sorts, as well as, try to stay physically fit. But absolutely, you have to have an outlet. You have to be outside of the box or the room or the chaos that you're in, because you can just get consumed by it. So you have to intentionally get yourself out of an environment, even if it's for 48 hours. Right? Just take a short trip someplace new, because that new stimuli.
And I think by yourself, at least you got to have some by yourself time in there, because if it's with your wife or your girlfriend, and that's sometimes hard, but like getting away and just having some peace. Now, the truth is a couple days may be the shortest time, because it usually takes your mind about 4 or 5 days to get wound enough of that stuff out of you so that you can have that space to be able to think. And I think if you'll genuinely kind of have thought to the universe or prayer, whatever you might call it, and ask for that inspiration, or what should I do next? How can I get off of this? What can happen? It may not work out the way you thought it, And that may be a good question. Tell me a way in which you thought it was going to be, and how did it turn out different for you ultimately in your journey?
A way that I thought it was going to be.
So like, hey, okay, I'm done. Like at some point you had a job, right? I mean, we all had jobs at some point. I actually never had many jobs in my life, but at some point you were employed for somebody and you said, I got to get out of here. This sucks. What did you expect was going to happen, and what actually happened? You know, obviously you've been successful, but like, what was the unexpected thing that maybe happened in this journey?
One of the hardest things I think is following your intuition and or your gut, and I've made a practice of doing that if it just doesn't feel right. Because I also believe, as you mentioned earlier, it's always going to work out. This is a hard thing for people to grasp, I think, but the reality is it's going to work out.
It's not going to hurt as much as you think it is when you fail.
Yeah.
Like we had this whole fear. And when I hit the ground, boom. And I mean, the fear that I had for 20 years, which was you're losing it all. Like it's all over. So 20 years disappears and you think, and it's actually when you hit, it doesn't hurt as much as you thought it. Like it's a much, I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't hurt, but I'm saying it doesn't hurt as much as like your thought of the pain that it's going to be is much less. Because you've already been successful. You already have it. I told people it's like my, when I failed, it was that thing when you get to start over again, but with all the knowledge of it, you always say, well, if I was younger and I could start over again, well, that's the opportunity. So just jump in, quit your job. I know that people like tell me I'm crazy, but like stop what you're doing. The only way to stop it is now come up with a plan, but get off of the prison, get out of the prison, get off the wheel.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt as bad when you fall. Like we're very, very fortunate, depending on where you're listening to, where you're based when you're listening to this. But coming from the States, like we have so much good fortune that we're just born into.
Yeah.
And my eyes were opened immensely through all my travels, right? So like what we think is bad or a rough landing, I mentor 2 kids in Kenya, right? That you want to talk about rough. They come from a village with no running water, no electricity, no sewer, right? And they live on $2 a day, if that. So, like, traveling also opens up your eyes to the rest of the world, but also like how fortunate we are, and that, yeah, you can take a chance. You can afford to take a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're almost crazy if you don't, because your life is at stake. You know, your life is at stake. Your day-to-day experience is at stake. Your happiness is at stake. So it's almost crazy not to. I mean, it is crazy not to take the risk if there's something that you're wanting to do or something that you're wanting to change.
I know we've talked about this, but it's that optimization, and we've talked about this in other previous shows, but the optimization of not having a lot of stuff and having that freedom. If you have a bunch of debt and you have a car, you got to get rid of the car. You got to have a plan to get out of debt. Debt is it's the suck it in. I heard these millennial kids are calling leases or owning homes, they're calling that a prison because they're attached to something. And so they have that same very inspiration. It just happened to hit us guys, at 40. We got it smart enough. Okay, we got to get off this thing. This sucks. They're learning it very early. You see my daughters, and they just want to explore, and they just have a different. And we probably gave that to them,
Well, another thing too is, like we were talking about YouTube earlier, and how YouTube has everything on it. It's also an outlet for the younger generation to get all of that information.
Right.
They can consume all of those new ideas
Quickly.
over the course of a night. That takes us, or that took us. God, I feel like an old man saying this, but
we are old. We're talking about. Hey, well, remember when I was a kid, we used to do this.
But it took us time to actually come to those ideas, or as we read stuff, or as we were exposed to new things, and they can do that over a night or over a weekend to completely revolutionize the way that they think. Yeah.
I've been to Disney World, been to Magic Mountain. Right, that's the one. No, it's the Epcot Center, the big ball that you see in the
Florida.
Epcot Center.
Yeah, they have Magic Mountain there too. Yeah.
Right. Well, the Epcot Center, basically what it is it's a journey through information, and you start out the bottom and you go around, or maybe at the top, but one way or the other you go, and it starts out with caveman. He was chiseling stuff, and then they came up with the printing press, and it shows how technology continually kept building people's life, and so now we're doubling technology at a rate that's crazy. I mean, we're talking about living forever, 20 years from now.
I hope I make the cut.
Yeah, me
right?
too.
Yeah.
I keep thinking, I'm on the cut line. If they can just figure it out, and I can, I need to get a little healthier. That's my next big project, to get healthier. I got a bunch of other stuff, by the way. I got to get healthier.
Yeah, it's one of the other revenue streams is cryptocurrencies, right? Speaking of technology and the evolution of it. So this is actually a way to some use the term print your own money, but that's false. It's what you're able to do. You're rewarded for work that your computer system does. But those rewards have a monetary or a digital monetary value. Bitcoin, as an example, is one of the currencies that most people know about. And you can buy, sell, trade physical hard goods. You can exchange Bitcoin currency, coins, for cash or paper money. So like that is the evolution of technology, right? There's an underlying technology called blockchain, which is really the new internet of sorts. It's still undiscovered in some ways, but it's going to be the evolution in our next 20 years of what's coming. But yeah, cryptocurrencies, that's another revenue stream. I have a machine that's set up and background and hardware, so taking capital.
But these aren't like normal machines. It's not like I'm getting my PC, right? This is like, this isn't like, I'm hearing stuff you guys talking about having the room cool and like what the heck's going on in this room that you got to have a cooler or a chiller in the room. So this isn't like you can just go out and get yourself a PC at Best Buy.
It's a gaming machine on steroids for personal consumption anyways. It's basically a gaming machine, a supercomputer, effectively on steroids. So these GPUs or gaming cards just run hot. They, by the nature of them working 24/7, they need to stay at a certain temperature range. So you want to keep them in a environment or a room effectively that has a certain temperature range for them to be as productive as possible.
So how does something like that work? Because I'm not familiar with that in any way, shape, or form. How does something like that work? So you have a machine or a series of machine, because I'm sure you scale that, the way of doing it. So you have all your computers in the room, and then they're constantly working to create the cryptocurrency, right?
Correct.
And let's say something happens like a power outage. And, even if you have backups or whatever, let's just say everything goes black. And when you start your machines back up, is it something that they have to, is there like a process to where it has to start from scratch again, or that it just picks up where it left off, or how does something like that work?
Yeah, great question. I'm not the expert in all the areas, but my knowledge is from the internet, my background of 15 years in technology. So there is a scaling component of this. You can start with just one graphics card effectively and scale up to hundreds, if not thousands, which they have what they're calling farms of these mining rigs in South Africa and China and Iceland, especially because of the cold up there. You just basically, there's certain types of hardware that's necessary for mining. And some of the cards are optimized specifically to these different currencies. The two main ones right now, one's called Bitcoin, the other one is called Ethereum, and they have their own operating systems. Your question about the reboot or the start, it's one of the considerations in Thailand.
Yeah, that's what made me think about it because of where we're sitting right now. Like I can't even count how many times I've been, doing an upload or a video render, and
right.
And everything goes down. So I can't imagine, in a situation like that where you've got, multiple machines working to actually generate income, right?
So the beauty of the technology now, you can actually restart these machines remotely or build in the code a way that they auto restart.
Oh, nice.
So that's a consideration in this country as well as others, that if it's going to, if you're going to have a power outage, it just has to go through that cycling process that and once that either Linux or Windows or the operating system's booted back up, if you do not have the auto restart in there, you can remote log in, or you manually just have to be in that same room and environment and fire the thing back up.
Interesting.
But your knowledge with the whole rendering, video edits and all that, that's effectively the GPU does that video rendering. That's the technology that's building the blockchain.
Okay.
And that's effectively the same tools or hardware that do the video rendering in your world is also what's helped building out this blockchain.
Okay.
And for that work that your machine does, you're rewarded in tokens. In the simplest terms.
Okay. Nice.
Rob's sitting over here just perplexed.
Listen, this cryptocurrency thing's got me miffed. I'm not there yet. I keep trying to get stuck in, but I'm definitely a more physical products guy. I like to touch stuff and be tangible, or at least when I'm doing affiliate stuff, at least there's something I've done that comes back and I'm selling someone's product or not. But like I know a lot of my guys. I know you're making money. I know a bunch of guys making money. I know a bunch of guys making a lot of money right now. I'm just saying, like, you better get your money out at some point. Like, you ain't made it until you cashed it in. So, but hey, listen, I know people making money. I'm not down it. I just don't quite understand enough, and I don't need to do something I don't understand. I got my hands full with other stuff, but
There's a little bit of risk involved with everything, whether it's an FBA business or cryptocurrencies or consulting, there's risk. So it's how do you minimize that risk? But the key, I think, to your earliest question, you have to take a chance, right? You have to just start. Yeah. Jump. Yeah. Whatever you want to
burn the boats.
Yeah. You got to get out of debt. That's I made a very conscious decision. I've had cars. I love cars. I've had over 20 different cars. It's almost, one every 2 years of my life. But with that, moving up to Colorado a couple years ago, I made a conscious decision instead of going back into the famous lease or, vehicle purchase debt. I just went and bought a $1,500 Mitsubishi Montero. And it was a conscious decision, but with that, my insurance price dropped. The truck didn't cost me much of anything, and I didn't have that $300, $500, $1,000 a month car payment, which you're tied to.
I think there you go. Right there's a number that I always tell people is maybe you're not going to jump and sell everything you've done. I think that's a more long-term plan, but start a business, start an online business, start a Kindle business, start an affiliate business on Amazon, start Google Ads, start learning how to buy ads on Facebook, whatever it might be, but start something and start out with the goal to make $100 a month. Because you don't build, listen, don't sell people. I don't want to sell people ever on, be a millionaire, be online marketing. None of these things that we talk about, none of the businesses that Empire Flipper sells or people buy are overnight millionaire stuff. Do people do it? Are there friends of mine who, made a crazy amount of money on Bitcoin? Are there people who got in early on Amazon, made tons of money? But don't put that, I call that the lottery ticket. Don't get yourself a lottery ticket.
Yeah, there's always anomalies, and then there's the other side that is.
So be the other side. That's that safe side, and that's how you've got to do it for so long. That's how I've got to do it, which is lower your costs, get in there and keep your costs low. Because when I got here, honest to God, I think I was spending less than $1,000 a month to be here. And I wasn't trying to live crazy, but I could live on all my bills, everything I had for $1,000 a month.
There's a YouTube channel here, Thrifty Steve, which we're going to have on a later show. We're going to have him on a show. There's a YouTube channel here, Thrifty Steve. You can just plug that into YouTube to where he actually shares his expense reports and how he keeps his expenses extremely low here, and a bunch of tips for living on the low in Thailand.
He gets a lot of hate for that, but regardless, he's doing it and he's here. And the benefit of being, listen, it may be not being here, and I don't want to. We talk about that a lot about being here, and it's just because we love where we live. But if it's not Chiang Mai or it could be Missouri, I don't care. In the middle of the winter, go start yourself, buy $2,000 worth of Amazon product. If you don't got a lot of money, start a Kindle store, start writing some books, start an affiliate site, do something that will get your online business started, and with that goal of $100 a month. And then build that to 500, build that to 1,000. Because the bottom line is $300 a month pays that car payment and gets you out of debt. And you got to start somewhere. So don't think you're going to go into this and try to make $10,000 a month, because you will be severely disappointed a lot of times. So start out with a realistic goal. Anybody can make $100 a month starting any business online. I mean, if you just push and work,
put in the work, you learn.
Put in the work.
Put in the work. Learn what's involved, and it's a process. Right. Everything. There's a system to pretty much everything. So it's just learning that system, and the learning curve is the actual difficult part. But once you find a path, then you can just kind of stick on that path and you're good.
Well, Nick, I'm sorry, Nick, you're a YouTube guy.
Yeah.
Nick made his money on YouTube. Nick figured out how to do YouTube channel. And I think about this.
And it's not even a huge channel right now. I'm coming up on 50,000 subscribers, and for the sake of, or for the realm of YouTube, that's still an extremely small channel. But the amount of money that comes from my YouTube channel is is fantastic.
I mean,
but it's building a business model around the YouTube channel. That's why.
But it's a location independent, or what I call freedom business, which is he can do his channel from anything, anywhere, any place.
Right.
Yes, a business partner, a long-time, lifelong friend. We've had an eBay business in the past, and when I made a conscious decision to leave Colorado, because I knew that I was going to get at least 6 months for the price of one somewhere else outside of Colorado. I looked at the math aspect of it. But yeah, my buddy and I, we had a business in the past, and so we knew we were going to go into the Amazon business. So I looked around my house, then I figured out, what can I sell on Amazon to get familiar with the platform? Well, what's Amazon known for? How do they start? Books. Well, as much as I don't read books, I buy books because I think I'm going to get it through osmosis.
90% of people don't read Amazon Kindle books. They buy them, and 90% of people don't actually read the books. It's like having books. How many books in your bookshelf have you actually written? It's like having this knowledge store space or something.
Somehow you want it to transmit to you, but
I think it does.
It does, yeah.
It does.
Well, you use books and the information in it when you need it. Like you have them as a tool to that statement. So the way that I honestly learned the Amazon back end was I just looked around my house at what I could sell. And when I made a decision that I was going to move, and I gave myself 6 months to get all my ducks in a row. And so I found books, and I had brand new books from Banksy to cookbooks to self-help books to a lot of digital and social media books through friends that are, authors and very well-known and established guys in the world. So I learned the back end of Amazon through selling things through the platform that I had in my house that effectively was just cash sitting there. Right. Believe it or not, all of my books got bought by somebody. So somebody will buy it somewhere.
If you got books at the house, go
Step
do
one.
it.
Yeah.
Step one, make $100. The $100 is the first $100. It will give you the tenacity and the win. I always talk about this, which is that first money you make. I'm telling you, I just remember that first cell phone, man. That first cell phone cover I made. I don't think I made $3. But maybe I didn't even make any money. I don't know, but it was.
But the sale process.
The sale process, and then winning and doing that first thing is just a magical experience.
Yeah, it's incredible. You see the dollar bills framed in the store, but this is the modern day. Like you get the email that says you just got a direct deposit for whether it's $2 or $200,000 for a contract. That's the happy point. That's when you go to the islands. That's when you go celebrate.
There's never been a time in the entire universe, or maybe in the universe we don't know about there, but on Earth, that the opportunity for you to make money online is here, and there's lots of them. And people, get away from that get-rich-quick scheme. Get away from emails that say, make $10,000 this weekend. Do that. Get away from that. Get yourself a real business.
And a real plan.
And a real plan that, that there's real company behind it, that you can, if you're working with Google, you're working with Facebook, if you're working with Amazon, whatever it might be, but make sure you get a real business. And Empire Flipper stuff, I mean, if you go on there and you look at all the different kinds of business, those are kind of business you want to be in, because if you can sell a business, that's a legitimate business. If, at some point, there's going to be people out there financing these businesses because they're strong enough, because they are real businesses. And you can own a real business online, I assure you, and not have it be some overnight get-rich-quick scheme kind of thing.
Well, Rob, you know what happens too, that there's so much information out there that it's hard to make a decision.
Information overload.
Right. So the easiest way that I can sum it up is just write down what you're passionate about. Write down what you're interested in, right? Going back to the Facebook advertising model, likes, interests, and behaviors. Write down 3 likes, write down 3 interests, and 3 behaviors. They need to be different, but that's going to help you go down that path. Then figure out what type of business. Do I want to go onto YouTube? Do I, want to start podcasting? Do I want to go to Amazon? Do I want to write books? Do I, whatever I want to do without having a plan. But because a plan sometimes, even in my mind, because when I hear plan, I think strategy, I think, 27 pages, and
no,
that's not it.
Right, a list
plan,
of 10.
Yeah, a list of 3.
Right, oh, yeah, I call that the magic 3, exactly.
Yeah,
Only
exactly.
3 things,
yeah,
handwritten on a piece of paper, will make a big difference.
That's the beauty of the bar napkin, right?
That's a beautiful statement.
It is. I mean, and you know this from your industry.
Right.
I'm sure there was hundreds of businesses started, or ideas at least, that jump started in your businesses and your bars on bar napkins.
But more great ideas are in the cemetery than there is any place else, because people write these ideas down. I guarantee
That's
you.
true, and that just gave me chills.
Right.
Like literally just
Right,
gave me chills.
too. I got the
that
goosebumps
was,
too.
Yeah, that was,
because there's a bunch of people
Yeah.
out there listening right now who've got ideas. You've got ideas right now. I guarantee you're out there, you're sitting, wherever you might be listening, you've got an idea, and you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I can do it. You have the self-doubt. But that's that point. Jump off and start on that thing.
Try.
And if it fails, who cares?
Right.
Like, but I knew every time I ever started a business, I knew that if I just did it, and when we talk to Thrifty Steve, he'll talk about that, is just do something, get started, and then the magic will open up. I'm going to leave. I'm going to quit my job. And you will be shocked at what the universe provides you with that intention that you're actually going to do it. And if you make that conscious decision, sucking at, here's my famous statement. Be the worst at something. Be the worst, horrible person in the world. My YouTube channel, I still laugh when I go look at the first YouTube channel, and I'm sure we have these embarrassing YouTube channel stuff that we've done or whatever it might be that was so horrific. The first website I built was horrific. Be horrible
At first.
because you're only going to get better. And by repetition and repetition, you'll get better and better and better. And, that's what I'd say. I guess we're getting towards the end. Oh, go ahead, John.
One book I have read multiple times, and it's an older book, The Secret, because it's about visualizing your goals. You literally, whether it's the Porsche you want, that's the storyline that they use in the book, or me, it goes back to motorcycles and traveling the world. I visualize myself literally in different countries, on different motorcycles, enjoying different cultures. And when you can see that, close your eyes and think about if you want to go to Hawaii or whatever you want to visualize, like you have to think about that will help you move to that next step. But yeah, The Secret, that book worked for me. It just told you articulate. You have to vocalize it. You can self-talk self-talk all day long, but have a conversation with a friend, family, wife, husband, whatever, and just, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to give it a shot.
Another thing with visualizing too is you're kind of defining what it is that you want as well, instead of just having a bunch of random thoughts on things that you would like. You're day in, day out, through visualization, you're defining what it is that you actually want, so you know so your brain knows what to move you toward.
Absolutely. Google the power of attraction or the law of attraction. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Well, when you're doing that, the thing is that you may not end up on the path that you think about, but you've started something. And I knew when I was doing this at any time, I was failing, but I knew as long as I kept doing something that the right opportunity would happen. I'm not going to talk about this now, but the one day when I had that $1,000, I made $25,000 in one day. So that $25,000 day, I was down to 1,000. Like the gig was up. I was literally, all of a sudden, boom, $25,000 in one day, and I was like, okay, we got it. Game on. Yeah. Game on. That was a big day.
Yeah, you asked the question earlier. I got to a point where by choice, because I wanted to learn it, but also I drove Uber for a month. And it was a short-term holdover for that check that showed up from a big consulting gig. So I looked at it like, well, I'm just going to have fun, right?
Sure. I bet you had some interesting rides.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I got one last question. We call this the big question with a small answer. So we want to keep it as brief as possible, a summary kind of thing. But if you're sitting at the house right now, we probably went over a lot of this, but I'm going to keep it short with this answer. If you're sitting at the house right now, you're in your car, you're working out, whatever you might be right now, you're watching this on YouTube, whatever it might be, and what one thing would you tell me I needed to do to do the big change in my life? What would that one statement be? What should I do?
We've used the word jump here a lot, but I would just say believe in yourself and believe in the fact that it's all going to work out. You just have to take action, whether it's jump, get off the hamster wheel, whatever. You just have to believe in yourself that it's all going to work out. So that for me, it's a belief thing, right? Just knowing that it's going to work. Because it starts like if you're in self-doubt, you're not.
And we all are. We all suffer with that. Everybody's scared. I watched a movie. I don't remember which movie it is, but it only takes 3 seconds of courage in your life. Literally. Get ready to do something, count 1, 2, 3, and go. There's this, I listened to another Tim Ferriss podcast about that, and one of the things they talked about is that literally it stops your brain down when you do that count, and literally you stop and breathe and go 1, 2, 3, and do it. Like if you want to get out of bed in the morning and you're having a problem with that, literally count 1, 2, 3, and there's this real physical thing that happens in your brain. It turns on another part of your brain. 1, 2, 3, go. And do it.
That's why when you jump out of airplanes and when you bungee cord jump, of which I've done both.
How many times? Yeah, we've all done 1, 2, 3.
They count it down.
They count down 1, 2, 3 bungee. So
Right.
that's just it. Yeah, perfect.
So there you go.
So,
1,
yeah,
2, 3, go.
jump.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
the answer right
Yeah.
there. 1, 2, 3, go. Yeah, well, great. Hey, guys, thank you for listening today to the Digital Journey Podcast. I hope that we've helped you navigate through your business journey today, and we've given you some inspiration, some real tangible step-by-step things you can do. Jon, thank you so much. I think it's been incredible what you've been able to share. I'm sure that this will be an inspiration. I still got goosebumps from a lot of what we talked about today. What an incredible show, and I appreciate it. Nick, you got anything to add before we get out of here?
Yeah, I also want to thank Jon for coming on. It was wonderful meeting you and having a conversation. It was good.
Yeah, thank
Nice.
you guys both. I look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, we'll be around having hamburgers somewhere. Hey, if you're interested in maybe starting your online business, if you're interested in maybe buying a business or you have a business to sell, or you're just looking for inspiration on the empireflippers.com website, they got all kinds of information about starting a business and resources and things like that. So make sure you check out their blog. Check us out on the YouTube channel at Empire Flippers as well, and subscribe, because we're going to keep posting these videos so you can watch the video and look at our beautiful faces and see how good-looking guys we are.
And with all of that out of the way, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
You're listening to the Digital Journey Podcast. The Digital Journey is brought to you by Empire Flippers, the largest marketplace for selling and purchasing online businesses. EmpireFlippers.com.